Welcome to the arena. My name is Greg Sindelar, and joining us today is my very special guest, good friend, fellow Fighting Texas Aggie, Chairman Brad Buckley. Chairman Buckley, thank you for joining us.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be with everyone at TPPF.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate you coming to the University of Texas campus. Not a place that we generally like to be, but...
Well, I feel I may have a fever. I don't know what it is, but no, I'm a little queasy, but I'm okay. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's always good to have reinforcements here. So, the purpose of this is just a free-flowing conversation to understand a little bit why you got into the arena and why you got into public service, some of the main issues facing Texas. But I think the place to start is tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and your education, and then why you decided to run for office.
Well, I grew up in Bell County, just south of Killeen, a little place called Youngsport, which really isn't a place. It's kind of a wide spot in the road.
I don't know I've ever heard of Youngsport.
No, Youngsport had a grocery store when I was about 4, and when I mean by grocery store, it was probably about the size of a bedroom, and you could get a grape soda. So we'd go work cows, and then that was the treat, was to stop. It was hot in the summer, and we'd stop, and they'd have all the drinks iced down in like a water trough, and you'd buy them. My granddad would buy me a grape soda, and I thought that was, wonderful. And
the pinnacle of life.
It was. I mean, it was really good, and I had my first Big Red there too. You remember Big Red?
Yeah, I love Big Red.
Yeah. I mean, it just tastes red, right?
Right.
I mean, what is strawberry?
I don't know about what the dyes are or anything like that, but I loved it. Yeah.
RFKJ's probably banning that as we speak.
It's gonna be a bit clearer before I know it.
Yeah, that's right. Why does Big Red look like Oasis or whatever it is? Ozarka water.
That's right.
But no, and so my dad ranched, and he also worked as a management analyst at Fort Hood. It was Fort Cavazos now, Fort Hood at the time. And my mom was a first grade teacher. My granddad was the head football coach in Killeen, and my grandmother was a first grade teacher. And so I grew up just south of town, where I loved horses and cows and dogs and cats, and my sister and I rescued every stray animal in Bell County. We had 10 dogs at one time, and my mom, all of 5'1", put her foot down and said, "Listen, next dog that comes in here, one of y'all has to leave." So
but 10 was the number.
Yeah,
man.
10 was too many.
She's
and
good.
So we had a great childhood, and we just grew up in the country, and it was I think formed who I am, and for me it sparked a love for animals. And our neighbor to the ranch, sort of to the east of us, was a veterinarian, a young veterinarian. I'd ride around with him in his truck all weekend, and open the gates, and he'd pull a calf and sew a horse up, and I was the gate opener and the cleaner upper of things we won't talk about.
Yeah.
And it just kind of sparked that interest. So I tried to study hard, and eventually made my way to Texas A&M, and graduated veterinary school in 1993.
Well, I love that. I grew up, I didn't grow up, but I was born in western Nebraska, very rural, and my family still has a farm out there, and we'd go back every summer. And the number of gates I would open, the number of things that I would clean that I didn't know exactly what they were, it's innumerable. But you learn a lot from it.
Oh, you do, and it's also there's sort of a hierarchy. Back in when I was a kid, there were just single cab pickups. There weren't these 4-door quad cab deals, And so where you're positioning. If you got to sit in the middle, that means someone else was on the outside to get the gate. I was always got stuck on the outside because I was always the gate getter, and that was about my skill level at the time.
I'm just glad they let you inside the cab.
Well, sometimes you were in the back, which was fun. You could do that. You could ride in the back end and drive down the highway, and nobody cared. Now you go to jail.
Yeah. I don't think you'd make it very far nowadays. So tell us a little bit about your political career and the first public office you ran for, and why you decided to do that.
Yeah, the first thing I did was run for the Killeen ISD school board. And, it was one of those things where, from a family of educators and having kids in school and just want to be a part of the process, I felt it was important for there to be a parent's voice on the school board. And so threw my hat in the ring and that dog caught that bumper. But it was a great time. I tell you, it was I got elected in 2000. I was 34 years old. And
that's awesome.
Full of great ideas. And it was a great learning process. The members that I served with on the school board are still dear friends to this day. And we had the school district was growing at the time, and tremendous growth, and serving all kids from all over the world, if you will, because of Fort Hood.
Yeah.
And and then 9/11 happened, and it was a total different thing. And we went from a mission, if you will, of having to care for kids whose parents were in harm's way.
Yeah.
And there were some really, really bad days.
Yeah.
And days when really bad news came home.
Yeah.
And so that was really impactful on me.
Yeah.
But always, it was always from a standpoint of, for me, whether it be my professional life or whatever, is how can we do this better?
Yeah.
To never really settle on where we were, but try to get better. Better at it, and help kids learn more, give them more opportunity, kind of look to the future, and those were good days. I'm really glad I did it, and it was an honor to serve.
Yeah, well, that's great, and I think that's like true Texas spirit, right? It's we can always be better, right?
Oh, yeah.
Today earlier today at lunch I was giving a speech and I talked about the Texas standard. It's very different than a normal standard, right? Like we expect to be the best, and we expect that in all realms in our education system, et cetera. And I want to get into that.
Sure.
But tell me, so you went from the school board, so then you ran for the state house. So what made you want to take that leap?
It was one of those things that we talked about in the community. I was also had a stint as a chairman of our local, or the Greater Killeen Chamber of Commerce, was really involved in economic development, trying to create an environment where business could flourish.
Yeah.
Had a veterinary practice and some other business interests, and I wanted to make sure that folks could really have the opportunity to succeed. And we've informed our very own privately funded venture that was a 501c whatever that would
C3
501c3 that
would
would provide, where local businesses pledged dollars to assist our local economic developers that were funded through the city, where we basically put our money where our mouth was to make sure that we had all the resources we needed to attract something besides the military. We needed to diversify our economy, and so we had a real deliberate effort to do that. That was incredibly important work to do, and I learned a ton about that. Our businesses put up, the ones that I'm in partners with, we put up a significant amount of money to try to help bring more opportunity, and it takes a while, but now Governor Abbott awarded a grant to one of our local businesses for $2.4 million last week or recently to help them sort of expand, and they're sort of tagging on to what Samsung is doing in Williamson County.
Yeah.
Bell County's got economic activity. It spreads across a region like a virus.
Yeah. It's high cotton, y'all.
Probably a bad analogy, but I guess it's a good virus. So it does. It spreads, and it just lifts everybody up. Prosperous people are happier and they're more optimistic, and to me that's kind of how I've tried to live my life. Can't say all days are like that, but most days.
You seem like a pretty happy and optimistic guy. I think you'd have to do that. Going into the state house, what's like the thing that you learned that surprised you the most? Or there's a lot of freshmen coming in this session. Like what advice do you give them? Like, this is what it's really like. There's what it is when you're running for it, and this is what it's like when you actually get into it.
There's campaigning, there's legislating. And there's a real difference. And I think each member has to decide kind of what they want their role to be. Every all 150 members are elected just the same. They all answer to a constituency, and we all have to decide. And what I think is the thing that surprised me the most is just how hard it is to get anything done. Our system is really designed to be a grind, as it should be. The idea that we ought to pass more bills is probably not the best thing. We have tons of government. We ought to pass the right bills. And those bills ought to do the right things. But just because, I always tell people, I mean this with all due respect, just because you dream it up doesn't mean Texas needs it.
That's right.
And you may have really good intentions. I know I've had some. I think this is really the one. About 30 minutes later, I'm like, not so good.
You talk to one person, like, ooh,
not such a good idea.
File that.
Absolutely. Throw that one away.
That's
Save
right.
me from myself, But that, I think that was and then the other part I think was just how important relationships are.
Yeah.
And that that's a little bit cliche, but it's absolutely the truth, because good members, you sort of find folks that you sort of fit with, whether it be your politics, your personality. And then you just try to, I didn't try to reinvent the wheel. There were some really good members, and I kind of looked from afar and went, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
That's the way to get things done. You want to represent your district.
Yep.
And then also, if you get the opportunity to try to lead discussions on important issues for the state, you need to do it, I think. And if you do, understand that comes with some baggage.
Yeah.
And it can be controversial. It can be tough. But I didn't run just to show up and
be a wallflower.
Yeah. I wanted to do some stuff.
Yeah.
And so now we're getting to do big things and getting to lead on some issues and win some and lose some, and but it's actually it's a pretty good gig.
It's a pretty good part-time, full-time gig that you have going there.
Yeah, that part is you don't want everyone to do the accounting. As a veterinarian, when I'm not at the vet clinic, it's a little different. I did a little math the other day and scratching it out, and I was like, I wadded up and said, well, I won't tell my wife about that. We don't really want to look at that. But and that's the other thing. You have to have family support.
Yep.
And my wife is just absolutely. I mean, we are a team.
Yeah.
And without her support, I couldn't do this. And some of the issues that I've led on have been, she's a public school educator.
Yeah.
And so I know we'll talk about some of that, but she's taken some incoming on that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing, she's tough as a boot, and she's principled. She loves kids, and she wants the best for them. And so she has been supportive of me the whole time. She gives me lots of advice. She tells me when she thinks I'm absolutely wrong, and she's usually right.
Yep.
And so, but if she can't support this, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's that's where we're at.
That's how true partnership works. I always tell people, I was like, there's no one whose advice that matters most than my wife.
Yeah.
And there's no one who's right more than my wife.
Absolutely.
And anything that I do is only possible because of all the things that she does. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the good Lord sort of has a way of pairing the right people. Obviously we know it doesn't work out for everyone all the time, but Susan and I met when we were in the seniors in high school.
Oh, wow.
In senior English.
Wow.
And she was an Army brat.
True high school sweethearts.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And so we met, and here we are. Our first date was November the 9th. 1984.
Man,
so
I'm
you can do the
impressed
math on that one. Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, we went to see the movie called Teachers with starring Nick Nolte. I don't know if I think he's still alive.
I think so.
But I mean, I don't know. And I mean, she became a teacher, but she was one when she graduated from A&M. She has a marketing degree. She worked in business and said, "I'll never be a teacher." And then sort of worked her way back and then became a bit. She taught marketing and business at a high school, and it just sort of took off from there. So you never say never.
Yep.
What you might be doing.
That's it's kind of amazing. Yeah. You can't imagine what will actually be happening in 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that's why you need a good partner through life as you get through all this.
And so we have 3 great kids and two grandsons, and how
many dogs do you have? You don't have 10, or do you?
No, not anymore. No, we're down to 2 cats, a bunch of cows, and horses.
Okay.
We have a sad story. We lost our little Claire. I guess it's been about 2 years ago now, and she was our empty nester dog.
Yeah.
And so when we lost her,
I'm sorry.
I mean, it hit us hard, and we're kind of still reeling from that. But when our lives settle down, we're gone all the time, and I'm gone and she's gone. We're together, and then we're apart. When things settle down one of these days, we'll get back into that.
We're getting a little far afield, but have you heard Jimmy Stewart's poem about his dog Bo?
I don't guess I have.
I'm going to send it to you.
All right, send it to me.
It is. Yeah. It's awesome because about this kind of incorrigible dog, but then it really gets to the heart about what a dog can mean to a family and what they can mean to people.
Claire rode around with us. We have an apartment in Austin, and we even snuck her in the apartment. Don't tell anybody. So
make sure this doesn't go to your landlord. Or
yeah, we did it. Guilty.
That's right.
She was wonderful. She was smarter than most people.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, so last session you became chair of public education.
Yeah.
Obviously, governor, organizations like TPF, others were really pushing on school choice and other educational freedom opportunities. Take us through kind of what that was like in your first session, trying to navigate all of that, and then where you kind of see the playing field currently.
Well, I mean, we knew it would be an issue, and I was honored to be chosen to lead the committee. I told Speaker Phelan at the time that if you wanted someone that could take on this tough issue, I'd love to lead on it. And lo and behold, I got the opportunity. And so, it was a great learning process. I mean, I think I'd never been a chairman. I'd been vice chair at a committee, but I'd never chaired a committee. And so, a little bit of a learning curve. I look back, I'm real, I'm always trying to, we talked about how you want to get better all the time. So I look back on that session and go, well, that was kind of dumb, probably do a little different. So, now that I chair the committee again, I appreciate Speaker Burrow's confidence in me to continue to lead. And, so I think I've learned some things and we'll be better at it. The issue was one that, that I knew had brought up the legislature before, and it was always sort of the House was the place where school choice came to die, and lots of reasons. But I believe the people involved and the politics of the time and the expectation of parents, it all lined up. The problem is last session they weren't in sync.
Yes,
just wasn't quite there. And I really thought we'd get it done.
I thought so too.
Maybe just out of being hard headed. Looking back, I'm like, well, maybe it didn't line up. Well, now it appears to be lined up. I take nothing for granted. The Texas House is a place where you have to go and you have to convince members and debate them. And work with them every single day if you want to do something important. And so that's what we'll continue to do. And I appreciate Governor Abbott and his efforts on this. And really what I appreciate, for all the, you sort of sometimes get in an echo chamber where, this is horrible. What are you doing? But when I go home, and I just see moms and dads in Brookshires and Salado, or I see them, around town, or they come in my vet clinic. They'll pull me aside and they'll say, "Thank you for fighting for us." And they'll tell me about a story about their child. And sometimes it's they've been out of high school for 10 years. But they share. I wish I'd had that opportunity. A parent. No one is more important than a parent in the education of their child. And, the more we can engage parents to do that and to be a part of it and give them an avenue to do that, not where it's not adversarial, but it's as an advocate for their child. I mean, we're going to get better results. We're going to have a better Texas. I really believe that.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I've seen what it can do in my life with my own kids. I'm a product of public schools, and I have one daughter who's in a public school, one who's in a private school. And I always tell people, we have a moral obligation to reach the potential of every child in this state. And we also have to understand that every child learns differently, and they have different needs, and every family has different needs, and we should be trying to figure out how to meet those as opposed to just how we fit them into a certain system. And so, but I think you have such a unique view, right? Because you have a very rural background. I know Austin continues to grow and is encroaching on you up there in Salado. Yes, that's right. And as a Austin resident, I apologize for that. But could you talk a little bit about maybe some of the things you've learned about how this can work and why this can be a really good thing for our rural communities?
I think that's probably one of the biggest pushbacks we get is that it won't do anything for rural communities. And I do believe that our public schools are often the heart and soul of a rural Texas town. And the values I know that you and I share and that are espoused by TPPF and all the great people that work here, they are alive and well in rural Texas. But there are kids in rural Texas where it's not always where the environment is not always the best fit. And I think in rural Texas and really across Texas, most parents will decide, like Susan and I did, to send their kids to public schools. But we have lots of friends and we have family that have made other choices. and have sacrificed mightily to make those choices. And I think what happens when we have a school choice program in Texas that really is implemented as it should be, it will unlock itself in ways all over Texas, where that parents, can say, yeah, we want to do public school here in this rural area, but there is a private option, or there is another unique learning environment where kids can learn. There's maybe a way to help us with homeschooling.
Yeah.
I mean, all of those things I think are important. And I've always said about this is, why in the world wouldn't we give parents every tool in the toolbox? Mm-hmm. Every tool in the toolbox to make sure their kids get what they need. I mean, that's your job.
Yep.
And so we just can't one size fits all anymore. And so I'm excited about what this means to Texas, and now it's just my job to get it done in the House.
Change is hard, but I agree with you. I think it's an exciting time, and I think the state will be better for it. Keeping kind of on that rural theme, we see a lot of issues in our rural communities. As I look across the state, 254 counties, over 150 of them are in population decline. They're mostly rural counties. And there are issues facing all of them, from healthcare, access issues, economic issues, water issues, et cetera. Can you talk about some of the issues maybe facing your counties and your district, and how the legislature is looking to address those?
Yeah, Bell County is a fast-growing county. We still have tremendous areas, rural areas where there's farming and ranching that goes on, and then you have the largest military installation in the free world, Killeen, Temple, and Belton. Some other small communities that have the urban parts and suburban parts to them. Beautiful lake communities in North Bell County. But the one issue that is sort of on everyone's hearts and minds when we think about what's coming basically from the south is water.
Yes.
And so if we want to meet the needs of Bell County and have those economic development opportunities, we're going to have to get a handle on it. Mm-hmm. If you think about some of the things coming to Texas, let's think about data centers for artificial intelligence. Tremendous amount of power that is required to operate, these facilities. Some of the other operations and other types of business and industry you want to bring for great jobs require a lot of water.
Yep.
And just development for more folks that might want to work remotely but live in a more rural environment. Yep. Build a home. Live in a neighborhood. We're going to need water, and we don't have enough in Bell County.
Yep.
And so I think what we're doing this time in the legislature is important, creating a sort of a recurring funding stream to make sure we can access more dollars to solve the water challenges and hopefully in Bell County and across Texas.
Yeah, when you see it all over, South Texas, that everyone I talk to down there is like, oh, water. Now, obviously in East Texas, it's not as big a deal. They got plenty of water, but it's a big issue for the state if we want to continue to grow to meet the needs of all these people moving in and the unique needs of all these districts.
And one more thing in Bell County that has come up, and it's something, between Bell, Milam, and Falls County, we have 115,000 acres of really Class A farmland that's covered in glass now with solar panels. And, this is an interesting sort of juxtaposition of private property rights and energy policy, basically with a big heaping amount of federal subsidy on top of it, that just makes it, and so, it's an interesting and controversial issue of how we sort of thread the needle on that, but understand that, when we look at a growing Texas, and I think about a growing Bell County, we've got energy needs, but we also, we have some of the most fertile farmland, and how do we balance that? And so, I think all of those things have to be front of mind as we sort of encounter when city meets country. In other words, and that is the I-35 corridor, and Bell County is split right down the middle by I-35.
Yeah, it's as someone who's driven. As I told you earlier, I was born in Western Nebraska, but I grew up in Fort Worth, and so someone who's driven a lot between Fort Worth and San Antonio even, the growth off of the I-35 corridor is just unbelievable to me. But, if we don't get these things right, these really important issues, then we will harm our rural communities. And I always tell people, the things that have kept Texas, those values that you talked about, those are held in our rural communities. As somebody who lives in Austin, I don't see it as much here in Austin as I do see it maybe in Salado and other places. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you'll see... Salado is just a great place, and it's a little east of where I grew up, and it just fit our family.
Yeah.
And we live in the country. We've got the horses right there where we live, and I'm pretty blessed, and I know I'm real blessed, and so it's a good place to be.
If my oldest daughter saw it, she'd be really jealous. So, well, we live up here, so I might be a neighbor soon.
Well, come on. We still got a little land left.
Yeah, that's right. Let's see if I can afford it. So, tell me a little bit more about your district. Like, what are if people haven't spent any time out in Salado, Killeen, Belton, Bell County? What are the things that they should know? What are the things that they should see?
Yeah.
And then the toughest question is, and the thing I'm always most interested in, where should I eat when I'm there?
Okay. That's an easy one. Okay, let me tell you about House District 54.
Okay.
It is a snapshot of Texas. Some members say that. I say it and I mean it because it's true. And here's why. If you look in the western part of Bell County, which is, let's say where that's my district begins, you see the largest military installation in the free world. Fort Cavazos was Fort Hood.
Yeah.
People come from all over the world, some of the bravest men and women doing some of the greatest things in protecting our country that are friends and neighbors. Who I grew up with as a kid. The reason my dad met my mom was an Army brat. The reason I met my wife is because my wife was an Army brat. And so Fort Cavazos is that sort of impact. It's a $38 billion impact on the Texas economy.
Yep.
That's in House District 54. And as you work around, you go to rural communities like Salado, which are kind of retirement communities, but now they've become desirable to young families. Mm-hmm. You go south and there's Bartlett, and Bartlett is just your quintessential farming town, and Rogers and Zobchickville, Owenaville, or Ratibor. It's where folks farm. They raise a lot of corn and, ranch and a lot of cattle. And you move north and you get Troy, and Troy is a sort of a suburb of Temple now. But they won't but they are. Temple's growing like crazy.
It is growing like crazy.
And, but Troy's they have a great school district in Troy and great people up there. Then you move around the lakes, Belton Lake, Morgan's Point and Moffett. Some of these are retirement areas. Others are where young families have moved. It's beautiful to, look at the water and so there's really no day off on the House floor. There is some issue impacting your district, if you represent House District 54, because it just has everything.
Yeah.
And, we've got school districts that have 44,000 kids all the way down to 380.
Wow.
And so it's a great snapshot of Texas. And as far as where to eat, come to Salado, you go to Johnny's Steaks and Barbecue.
All right, Johnny's Steaks and Barbecue. Yeah. So that's usually the one people struggle with the most.
No offense to my other friends that have restaurants, but Johnny's is an institution, and Johnny and Josh Bratton, who own it, are great friends, and they are great Texans, and it's worth your time to come to Johnny's.
All right. Well, we've heard it straight from Chairman Buckley's mouth. If you're in Salado, go to Johnny's. And so next time I'm in Salado, I will go to Johnny's. Yeah. So I'll report back to you on how it is. But
you're gonna have a good time, and you're gonna get a good meal.
Are the best. It's just nothing like it. Well, Chairman Buckley, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being in the arena. Thank you for, I know being chair of public education, there's a lot. We talked about school choice, but there's a lot of other issues of teacher pay raises and school finance and STAR tests and all these other things.
It's all on the way.
Yeah.
All those issues, Greg, we'll be working on all that.
Yeah.
From school safety to teacher pay to teacher incentive allotment. To making sure early childhood education is the best it can be in Texas.
Yeah.
We're working on lots of issues, and so I look forward to leading on those issues, and thank you very much for having me here today.
Yeah, anytime, and I hope you and your staff do find time to get rest, though, because there's a lot of big, major issues facing the state, and we're appreciative of your leadership. So thank you, Chairman Buckley, and thank each and every one of you for joining us on this episode of The Arena. We will be back with a new episode very soon.